Here today to discuss the Hampton Roads industrial market is Bill Throne, First Vice President and Ports and Intermodal Advisory Group co-lead at Thalheimer, Cushman & Wakefield. By the way, Bill is a former Navy pilot, so supposedly some folks in the market consider him the Hampton Roads real estate version of Tom Cruise.
Thank you for the introduction, Larry. I appreciate that. Thank you again for being here today. It's a delight having done this for a number of years. I just want to share how much I appreciate being part of the real estate community. We do have something special here. Having worked in San Francisco and Los Angeles previous to that, I really do think we need to enjoy what we have here. You know, as I've gotten older, I've learned a couple things, and one of them is that we need to learn who we really are, right? And I think that's the curse of being young. Insecurities that surround not knowing who you are, but the older you get and the longer you've been in a market, you start to understand who you really are, and that shapes, again, your happiness on a day-to-day basis. You know, for many years I've surfed. I don't think I ever looked like this before, but at least I can say that I'm a surfer. I think this is probably a little more representative of what I look like today. And again, I'm not sure whether that's a good thing or a bad thing. All I know is I still get a chance to get out on the water, and I still can say that I'm a surfer, turned into something like a grandpa on a longboard, I guess is what you described me as specifically today. But what I want to relate this to the industrial market here is that for many, many years we've been involved with economic development in the region, and it's appropriate. But I think we've proved over time that really this industrial market really is a good, strong, local community market. And if you're in the real estate industry, whether it's in brokerage or it's in lending or it has to be in title work, last few years, even with the recession, we've all made a living at it. We've done a pretty good job of keeping our head above water. And I think for 2018, what we saw was a lot of good internal activity, a lot of good churn inside the marketplace here, but not a lot of external influences for companies that have relocated to the market. Much like the office sector, I think we get excited about companies like Amazon. We hear they're in the market for 600 or 800,000 square feet, Wayfair for another 400,000 to 500,000 square feet. We get excited about that, but we may not be true to who we really are, and so it leads to disappointment in the long run. I think I like to take stock and take a sense of contentedness in our market when I see things like a vacancy rate at 4%. I've selected a couple of other benchmark communities for us to look at here to compare Hampton Roads to get a better understanding of who we are and who we're not. 4.1%, much like the unemployment rate, it's a good number because the flip side of this coin is we've got a 96% occupancy rate. And if you're a building owner in the industrial market, unless you've got a property that has some blemishes, some functional obsolescence, your properties have stayed pretty full. And I don't know too many lenders who've really been calling notes back on industrial properties that are kind of core to our market. So I think overall, we continue to see what we call a lot of churn in our market, a lot of deal activity that occurs in the marketplace here, but really not a lot of external influence and pressures on to try to build more product in the marketplace here. And to give you an example of trying to benchmark ourselves against a community that's not like us, but seems like it is, let's take a look at Charleston for a second. Another port community, another port that we compete with, although quite frankly, the world-class port here in Virginia, I think does a much better job than Charleston does in terms of bringing and servicing ships. 7% vacancy, you might say, wow, we've got that one won. We're beating areas like Charleston or even Columbus, Savannah. We're a good community, we're tight. Charleston last year delivered 6.3 million square feet of industrial product into the marketplace. That's brand new inventory that they were built on speculation to the market at 6.3 million square feet. Hampton Roads last year delivered effectively zero. So it doesn't surprise us to see 7%, and I appreciate Dr. Agarwal's comment about unemployment. As a static indicator of health, it's not any better than taking the temperature and telling me I've got 98.6, but not recognizing I blew my knee out trying to surf the other day, right? That's not really a true indicator of what health might be. Gross absorption, on the other hand, is something we can look at. For our market of 100 million square feet last year, we did a pretty fair job at 2.7 million square feet worth of gross leasing activity in our marketplace. That means that every real estate broker that I work with, generally speaking, made a pretty good living last year. If you're a loan officer, you probably made pretty good money as well. 2019 should continue. We need to understand who we are and be appreciative of what we have. Now, Charleston there, you can see they've got 9.71% of inventory. Charleston is not like us in the fact that they are adjacent to a strong MSA in Atlanta, certainly the northern Florida area here. They've got the population that demands that kind of of leasing activity. And similarly, they have an identity in manufacturing that incorporates automobile and aviation. Volvo, BMW, Kia, all these have Mercedes-Benz, Boeing. All these guys are down there and strong, and they are looking for space in that marketplace. So it shouldn't surprise us that they see 9.71% total inventory gross absorption compared to our 2.72%. We're not Charleston. Our port may be superior in a lot of ways, but as far as an industrial market, we are who we are. On the net leasing activity, it's the same story, isn't it? But ultimately, the inventory we had that was occupied at the end of 2017 is essentially the same inventory we had at the end of 2018. Not a whole lot of change. So our net leasing activity net absorption is an anemic 0.2%. And yet at the same time, we're healthy because we are not a world-class surfer. We are really a surfer that enjoys warm weather, some strong waves when they come here, but a great chance as a family to hit the water when we need down at some beautiful beaches here that the Hampton Roads area offers. So again, referencing our 4.1% vacancy, we need to be content with that. And to add a little more sugar on top of that for you is that Cushman & Wakefield, like most major commercial real estate firms, does an annual forecast. I picked this, they didn't call me to get my opinions on what they should include in this, but I was delighted to find out when I started to read it that when they looked at rent growth, projected rent growth for 2019, Hampton Roads was featured. So I'm reading this magazine being delighted by what I'm seeing because we're being compared to other markets like Los Angeles, Orange County, Austin, Texas, which are really strong submarkets. And this is a result of the low vacancy rate at 4%. So even though we're not getting a lot of external pressure with a lot of these larger transactions, these big boxes coming to our market, it is a good, healthy, local market, and we should be grateful for it. My third and last point, trying to rhyme, more beers at the piers. How do you talk about the industrial market and not applaud the phenomenal world-class port that we have here? John Reinhardt, his crew, Russ Young, Russ Held, do a phenomenal job of trying to attract new businesses here, and I believe they'll be very successful in 2019. And that'll be outstanding for us. We have a world-class port that can allow for continued growth for many, many years to come with Craney Island as well. TEU volume continues to increase, efficiencies at the port. I came in from Suffolk prior to this meeting this afternoon to see the ships tied up at the docks there. It's really an encouragement, isn't it, to see the container volume that we're bringing through the port at record levels, and those will continue through 2019. William & Mary puts out a study every year that talks about the economic impact of that, and it always is positive, and the total numbers of dollars earned in our GDP as a result of relationship to the port, it's phenomenal. So we need to applaud the port and be grateful for them. Another sector that drives our industrial economy, which will have a great influence on the industrial market, is going to be the shipyard community. The Navy has been pushing for a fleet rate level of 355 ships. We have a current inventory that's in need of repair, and those contracts will come to Hampton Roads. We are the premier shipbuilding community in the United States. And as a result, when we see things like the award of the 2-carrier contract where we get economies of scale coming to Hampton Roads, and our own Huntington Ingalls shipyard is the only shipyard to construct aircraft carriers in the U.S., there's no surprise we'll see increased demand from major shipbuilders needing laydown yard to subcontractors who make specialized parts, whether they're radar facilities or propellers, needing additional inventory. And this creative broker from Thalheimer there pushing that idea that 2 aircraft carriers are announced, I've got warehouse space for you, come and get it. And I think he's going to be successful because that will drive demand in our marketplace. On a larger scale, on the maritime side of things, this CSX property was purchased last year for $17.5 million. It's about 80 acres all total, including the subaqueous pier space that you see outlined here. Major ship repair company purchased this property through Ken Benassi with Colliers, and they absolutely are going to use this facility for ship repair. So look for great things to happen as a result of the increased demand for ship repair and construction in our own community here. And again, understanding who we are, this is our identity. We may not be automobile manufacturing, aerospace manufacturing, but we need to embrace this and recognize that this is the future for the Hampton Roads marketplace. And lastly, looking forward just a little bit, Skanska, Bayshore Concrete in Cape Charles, Virginia on the Eastern Shore, which is part of our MSA. They brought to market this 90-acre former concrete form plant over on the Eastern Shore for sale. This will attract companies like offshore wind. And the offshore wind crescent runs from North Carolina all the way up through Massachusetts. We have 2 test turbines that are expected to be put into operation in 2020, 2021. That's already been funded privately and with the help of Virginia Dominion Power. But I think at the end of the day, we offer in this community these kind of sites that a lot of waterfront communities up and down the East Coast no longer offer because they're not economical, they're not available. So we're going to look for, I think, construction, repair, maintenance facilities to be located here in Hampton Roads to support that offshore corridor all the way up and down the East Coast and the Mid-Atlantic to the Northeast. And lastly, as I started with, know who you are and be content with who you are. These are secrets of life that those of us have a little bit of age on us understand. I moved here in 2003 because I love the community. I remain here for the same reasons. Summer's coming. Norfolk's a wonderful town. I appreciate the work that we do here, and I look forward to 2019 being a wonderful year, a good year. Thank you so much for your attention.
Bill, we have a follow-up question from the audience for you. President Trump's disagreements over trade with China have been pretty well publicized, and there's been some speculation in the marketplace that this may impact the port, and by extension, maybe even impact the industrial market for real estate in Hampton Roads. Have you seen any sign of this?
Thank you, Larry. We did see at the end of last year a lot of companies in anticipation of tariffs really try to move a lot of product through the ports. I will say that the West Coast, more so than the East Coast, saw some of that effect, although we did see it here. I think right now trade relations with China are looking towards warming, and I think whatever impact might have been, it was minimal, and I look forward to it not being an issue moving into 2019.